Muito obrigada à Senhora Secretária de Estado. E para nos elucidar sobre a forma como os esquadrões militares de transporte aéreo podem salvar a Europa dos mega incêndios, chamo agora aqui ao palco o diretor de Estratégia da Sand Industries, Matthew Schuler. Where is? Here. The stage is yours. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Play the video. The video. Bom dia. I'm here to present PCADS, Precision Container Aerial Delivery System. PCADS was first thought up by Boeing C-17 Phantom Works to fight fires with an aerial delivery system. PCADS is a generic airdrop bundle. So this can be used with every A400M, C390, C130, CASA 295, 395, Chinook, CH-53. So this can be used in hundreds of aircraft to fight fires. The critical element with PCADS is that we have a halo timer. So we can get the aircraft hundreds to thousands of feet away from the fire. So we can fight fires day and night. So here, there's no timer. Over here, that's a 500-foot AGL altitude drop with a 2-second timer. The bundle free falls, cuts the box open, and deploys the system. So you can play the video. So for the first time ever, we can fight fires safely with large aircraft. And then PCAD's an adaptable system, so we can use long-term retardants, you can pause it here, and water enhancers. So my talk with Brigadier General Reed is about his work with us during the development of this project. So this is a 20-year project that we developed with the USAF, Air National Guard, U.S. Forest Service. So General Reed was in charge of the Air Directorate Field Advisory Council, the C-130 Weapons System Council.
So,
and here we go.
Outside of combat flying, what experience do you have in disaster management, wildfire operations, while working with the Air National Guard?
Well, I've had the chance to be the mission commander on numerous wildfire operations, of which I've been in charge of 8 MAFS airplanes in different locations around the West, working with the National Interagency Fire Center, which is the Forestry Service arm of the air tankers. So I've got that experience. I also was the mission commander during Katrina. I was in charge of the MAFs up there, so I got to work with the FEMA and those type of operations during Katrina. Not only as mission commander, but my wing was also had airplanes down there after I was relieved from the MAFs mission commander. Also during Hurricane Sandy, I went back to FEMA headquarters in DC and worked that issue with power restoration and getting power restored to the eastern coast during that operation. Was there about 2 weeks, and getting the power restored to the people.
Well, as a New Yorker, I thank you. When did you get introduced to PCADS? Was that part of an AMC project? How'd you get involved as a SME?
Well, I was approached by Boeing, and they had a concept of dropping, modular.
The little blivets?
Yeah, and they said, is there a need for this? And I said, yes. Because of my experience with the control of, the federal agency, this was kind of an independent type thing. Also, too, is it created more assets to be able to do the firefighting mission, because it did not need to have a special training. In the MAFs, we have to have special training every year.
And I believe the Guard right now has over 300 C-130s.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who you talk to.
So right now, how many MAFs are operating is like 6 to 8?
8.
So now our operating was the
Multiple.
part of that.
Yes.
Now we have over 300 available aircraft that don't have to be specific
Right.
for the mission.
And that's just C-130s.
Yep.
Anything that has a roller system, C-17s, CH-47s, the CV-22, the Ospreys, anything that has a roller system can use this to fight fires.
Yeah, and that's the generic
Yep.
aspect of PCAS.
It really is, yes.
So next big question for you, and I know this hits you hard at home. Why are you so passionate about PCAS?
Oh, man. Well, I've lost a lot of good friends. Lost 3 of them in the Charlotte crash in South Dakota, MAF 7. And if any of you have walked a crash site, it's very emotional. And they did not have to they did not have to die. One of our pilots that went in Montana, he worked for Colson Aviation, died in the crash over in Australia. So this system can be dropped at a halo, high altitude, low opening. You do not have to be low, close to the flames. And
So altitude differences?
For the MAFs, we have to be down around about 150 feet above the ground. Very turbulent, whatever. That's the reason the MAFs, historically, we never didn't go over the fire to do fire suppressant. We were always out.
So they're doing containment lines
Yes.
around the fires
Yep.
versus what PCADs can do directly into the fire.
Right. And because of the halo, we can be above the turbulence or whatever.
So that's 500, 800, 1,200, 1,500
Whatever
feet
train to.
AGL.
Yeah. Also, too, another people that died because of the hotshot team down in Arizona and the New Mexico border, they had requested air support 5 times before they died that day. Having worked with MAFs and the NIFC or whatever, lack of assets, turbulence, smoke, visibility.
Was it low-level, dangerous conditions
It
why they were
was.
denied?
I can only guess, but those are the reasons why you are denied assets, turbulence, visibility, those type of things. When we've been denied to fly in a fire, we say, well, it's too turbulent or whatever. Got it. We don't want to be at 150 feet, possibly, going down valleys and being slammed.
So
in.
800 feet, 1,200 feet, way better.
Right. So they, when they were, if the PCADs would have been available at that time, we could have been up at 2, 3, 4, 5,000 feet, dropped these containers in, created a safe area, and they...
With multi-ship.
Yep. They did not have to die.
Yep.
So, passion, it's personal.
When you compare a system that rolls on board versus PCADs, what are the main advantages?
Well, there's the system that rolls on board. Takes a while to get on board.
Heavy.
You're right. So your reaction time is a lot longer. Once it's on the airplane, that's all it can do. I mean, it is a firefighter, can't haul cargo, people, maybe 1 or 2 people, but nothing to speak of. So that, with the PCADs, it's still the same configuration that it always is. And also because of the MAFs, we have to train every year with it, and which is expensive, time. Also, when the MAFs at 150 feet, the turbulence or whatever is very, very hard on an airplane. I think Lockheed says when we are doing the firefight, don't quote me on the numbers, but the last I heard was about, for every hour we did fight fires, it was like 23 to 25 hours equivalent on the airframe.
You're close, 25 to 27.
Okay, so thanks for correcting me. But that is huge in that, you're up way above the turbulence. So the equivalent flying hours are much less. So that's less costly too for your airplanes. There's a lot of things, but those are the big ones is, that's a lot simpler.
So
Yeah.
speaking of simple,
Mhm.
how big were the MAFs teams versus a PCADs team?
Well,
I mean,
big.
air crew is going to be generally the same,
Yes.
but now you're talking ground crew. You've got your FOSCheck pits.
Mhm.
versus a handful of people,
Right. So
your mechanics.
So, yeah, you have your mechanics for the system in back of the airplane, which that's not cheap, to keep those systems up and running. I would say, you know, when I was the mission commander, even when I was flying the MAFS mission, we would go down, I don't know, you know, of course, the older the equipment gets, the more often the equipment goes down. You don't have that with PCADs. There's no equipment to go down. It's just rolling out of the back of the airplane. So we would get canceled. I'd say, well, don't quote me on these numbers, but for every 10 missions, maybe we'd have to cancel one.
I think you told me before it was about once a week.
Yeah. So
when you're activated.
right, so it depends on how often we're flying, and you know the type of slurry that we're dropping to has a toll on that equipment. So, and also too, you have people that have to run those compressors. So you have compressor maintenance people, you have the unit maintenance people, you have of course the maintenance people on the airplanes, which doesn't have to be as big. So it's sizably less ground footprint for a PCADS type of operations versus a MAFS.
Yep. If an airlift squadron's interested in PCADS, we have two questions. Do you already airdrop? And if you do, how often, right?
Right.
And then we can get into PCADS training. So if they don't airdrop, how long would it take them to get proficient? A week or two of airdrops, classroom?
2 to 3, depending on how good you are. Are you good? If you're good, it's going to take less time. So basically, that's 2 to 3 weeks. It's pretty simple. You just maintain a 7-degree deck angle, and it comes out.
Yep.
And so that's the training that you would do. And then after you get that, then basically, rigging the PCADS bundles, with the loadmasters and the aeroporters, another couple weeks.
So one of the harder parts of getting PCADS in action as a new mission is the multi-agency issues. So as someone that's worked with FEMA on large-scale disasters, how can we help countries develop the mission when there's civil agencies, federal, and military involved?
Well, I would gather, or I would probably say that I wouldn't think any other countries as diversified as ours.
We have so many levels, right?
Right.
So that's where Title 10 and 32 came from.
Right. And so, basically it's a basic premise. Wherever the disaster is, the local agency is in charge. So if that agency is overwhelmed, like here in the States, like in the state of Wyoming, then they request state assets. Then when the governor says, I need more help, then he activates and calls for the National Guard. That's both the Army Guard and Air Guard. If that agency is overtasked, then we have what we call an EMAX, that we have agreements with other states. So they came in. That was a big player in Katrina because every state in the Union had something going there. So, and then if that's all exhausted, then they will ask for federal help, of which that's the Title 10 that comes in. But the bottom line is the command and control lies with the most local agency. That agency may hand that off to somebody saying that I'm overwhelmed, can you help me do this? But it's with permission with the local agency.
Yep.
So basically, with the MAFs and even the PCADS, it's like a war. The enemy is the fire. So whoever is on the ground will conduct what we call close air support.
So if we were able to depot PCADS all over Europe, all they would have to do is fly in any aircraft with a roller system, and you drop them and go.
Right.
Turn and burn 24/7.
Right. So any system can be set up, but you have to have a chain of command.
Exactly.
No matter which way it goes, this way or this way, as long as everybody in the organization knows that this is the chain of command.
Yeah, exactly.
You bet.
Airlift squadrons, what kind of training do you provide? Is it pilots, flight engineers, loadmasters? Like what's you do to help them be successful?
Well, we look at what their existing training is and what they have trained to do, so we'll modify it. So basically, my expertise is 245, which is the bulkhead forward. So I work with the pilots, the flight engineers on their checklists and how they run it. So I look at, see how they run their airdrop, which is each country is a little bit different. I'll do suggestions, depending on how they do it, whether it's all computerized or the calibrated eyeball on how they do it. So that's how I help them get.
If their window isn't blocked, right?
Right. So, but even with that, you have different ways and techniques, I guess. Because I'm old, I've got a lot of techniques in my bag of tricks that I pass along. So then in the back of the airplane, we have our loadmasters, very, very skilled people that have their different, how they work with the local on how they do it. So we're not coming into a squadron to change how you're doing things. We're there to modify to accept the PCADs and how to make it effective.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else to add about PCADs? And
I'll tell you what, I don't know who all's listening to this, but getting PCADs in your toolbox is a really cheap insurance policy, and it will be the best decision you'll ever make.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, and thanks for taking me out flying earlier.
Yeah, that was a kick.
Cool.
Any day flying's a good day.
Of course. Yep.
So, any airlift squadron looking for a generic capability that can fight fires 24/7, PCADS is your solution.